Hello friend. I want to tell you about the Volkswagen Golf car. The Volkswagen Golf is still very popular on the secondary market, and due to the year, we will increasingly buy the 6th generation of this German classic. Although it is technically only a facelifted version of the 5, it has its advantages over its predecessor. Unfortunately, it also has its disadvantages. The Volkswagen Golf is still very popular on the secondary market among Poles, and due to the year, we will increasingly buy the 6th generation of this German classic. Although it is technically only a facelifted version of the 5, it has its advantages over its predecessor. Unfortunately, it also has its disadvantages. The Golf V cockpit brought a new quality, both in terms of the fit of the elements and ergonomics. Even today, the dashboard would be difficult to consider outdated, especially when you look at the Astra and Focus cockpits overloaded with buttons. The quality of the interior assembly has also been improved. The position behind the steering wheel and the comfort of the seats can only be described in superlatives. The chassis can also be spoken of positively, giving a great sense of security and the desired flexibility on uneven surfaces. It doesn't drive like the Focus, but it's also not as sluggish as the Astra. This is not only due to the appropriate tuning of the springs and dampers, but also to the multi-link rear axle design, which debuted in the 5th generation. Engines in the Volkswagen Golf. The biggest change compared to its predecessor is the complete abandonment of petrol engines from the FSI family and the old diesel 1.9 TDI. The defective 2.0 TDI PD engine also did not make it under the hood. The offer was filled with supercharged, petrol TSI engines with capacities from 1.2 to 2.0 liters and a modern range of diesels with the common rail system 1.6 and 2.0 TDI. Fortunately, there was also no shortage of good old petrol designs with indirect injection 1.4 MPI and 1.68 V. They opened the range and were not chosen very often, especially on the German market, where a lot of Golfs come from. They were replaced by the TSI family, dynamic engines and more pleasant to use, at least in the short term. The smallest TSI in the range is the 1.2 engine, 86 and 105 HP versions. Much more popular were the 1.4 TSI engines with 122 horsepower and 160 horsepower. The latter was equipped with a compressor supporting the turbocharger. For a very short time, only in 2009, the 1.8 TSI, 160 horsepower, was offered, while the top Golf GTI and R were powered by a 2-liter TFSI with power from 211 to 272 horsepower. The diesel range seems more modest, mainly due to only 2 capacities. The basic 1.6 TDI engine was offered in 90 and 105 horsepower versions. The 2.0 TDI in the weakest version gives 110 horsepower, the stronger 140 horsepower, and the Golf GTD is powered by a 170 horsepower diesel unit. 4-wheel drive was offered for the diesel engines, 1.6 TDI 105 HP and 2.0 TDI 140 hydrogen phosphide, as well as for the Golf R, where it was standard. As was the 6-speed DSG gearbox, which was also fitted to the GTI. The GTD had a manual as standard, but DSG was an option. A 6-speed automatic was also offered for the 2.0 TDI, and a 7-speed gearbox for the other engines. The manual gearboxes had 5 gears in the weaker versions and 6 in the stronger ones. Which engine to choose? While in the Golf IV the choice of engines was mainly a matter of taste and needs, in subsequent generations one has to be guided by prudence. The most traps await buyers of the Golf V. It is definitely better in the 6. The 1.4 TSI, 160 hydrogen phosphide, unit should be ruled out right away, as it is so awful that buying it is like playing Russian roulette. You can survive this awful game, but we do not recommend this engine. It will break down sooner or later. Buying a Golf 1.8 TSI with the same power is also a bad idea, because its engine is known for its high oil consumption. You should also be careful with the 1.2 TSI and 1.4 TSI. These are engines from the EA111 family, the same as the aforementioned engine, but they do not have the defect of burning holes in the pistons. The main problem with the 1.4 TSI is the timing chain, which sometimes needs to be replaced every 30 to 40,000 kilometers. Increased oil consumption also occurs, although not as often as in the 1.8 TSI. There are known cases of premature turbocharger wear, mainly in the 1.2 TSI, although replacement is not a shocking cost. If you consider that the engine is working perfectly, you have a full service history, and the mileage does not exceed 150,000 kilometers, it is worth taking the risk of buying a 1.4 TSI, especially after 2010. In the case of the 1.2 TSI, we have a better alternative. It is the 1.68 volts engine, which has proven itself perfectly in previous generations, as well as in other brands of the Volkswagen Group, mainly in the Škoda Octavia 2. This is a unit that can be recommended without hesitation, and its power of 102 HP gives better performance than the 86 HP in the 1.2 TSI. Unfortunately, it also consumes much more fuel, but it is possible to install a gas installation. Experts even claim that this is the ideal engine for gasification, and we agree with them. Volkswagen also offered the Golf 1.4 MPI, which has only 80 HP and definitely the weakest dynamics in the range. If the engine works properly, it remains quite economical, although it is mainly suitable for short distances, for driving in the city. Its disadvantage was, for some time, the freezing oil sump, which could cause considerable damage. A symptom of the fact that the engine had a problem with this in the past is excessive oil consumption. The engine itself can be repaired cheaply or simply replaced with another one. And what about the sports versions? The 2.0 TSI engine is famous for its high oil consumption, but on the other hand, the more demanding the version, the better the manufacturer seems to have focused on quality. However, in the case of the sports GTI and R, almost everything depends on the method of use and service. When buying such a Golf, you should be aware that the engine will require repairs or replacement at any time. Diesel units do not have similar problems, which in the Golf V deserve praise. Both with common rail injection and an improved lubrication system design compared to the predecessor. Diesels are free from serious faults that are wrongly attributed to the TDI family. Their main disadvantage is currently increased nitrogen oxide emissions and the recall campaign they are covered by. Most people willing to buy a Golf do not care about this. The main drawbacks of TDI engines are oil leaks, more often 2.0, and failures of individual injectors, mainly 1.6. Although they are twin designs, they differ significantly in terms of operation. For example, 1.6 TDI is more likely to struggle with a clogged particulate filter, while 2.0 TDI with leaks in the fuel system. In any case, both engines can be recommended to people who really need a diesel engine, because they are refined and reliable. Their failures are typical of all diesel engines. If you care about low fuel consumption, choose the 105 horsepower 1.6 variant, while for those looking for good performance in this model, we can recommend the GTD version, which, unlike the GTI, can be equipped with a manual transmission and uses half as much fuel, and is just as fast on the road. If you don't believe me, ask Tomas Kucher. Recommended engines: 1.6 MPI, 102 hydrogen phosphide, definitely the best option in this model. It provides reasonably good performance and a good night's sleep, and equipped with a gas installation, it is unbeatably cheap to operate. 1.4 TSI, 122 hydrogen phosphide. We recommend it conditionally, because it is a risky choice, but good for people who are looking for a dynamic petrol. 1.6 TDI, 105 hydrogen phosphide, for economical people who want diesel. 2.0 TDI, 140 and 170 hydrogen phosphide, weaker for high mileage, more powerful for those who want sport, with diesel in its veins. What's broken? Basically, not much, but the Golf V is not without its flaws. The worst thing that can happen to the user of this model, apart from engine failure, is a failure of the DSG gearbox. The rest are trifles that are hard to talk about. The car is relatively young, so it doesn't show any other faults. The things that slightly spoil the Golf's reputation as a durable car include individual body corrosion points and paint chips. The generally praised quality of the car's workmanship does not apply to all of its components. Steamy headlights and a stuck tailgate lock are not isolated cases. Sometimes the electronics fail, especially in the best-equipped models, but most often the faults are fixed during the warranty period. The suspension and brake system are durable. The front wishbones allow for full regeneration. Is it worth buying a Volkswagen Golf? Definitely yes, especially if you are looking for a compact with a diesel engine. We recommend the GTD version in particular. The offer of very good petrol units is basically limited to one, and also rarely encountered 1.6 version. If you need a compact with such a unit, it will be easier to find something from competing brands. The Golf has a certain advantage and a consequent disadvantage. It is easy to resell it, usually with a small loss, but when buying it, you also have to spend a lot of money. Thanks for listening to me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and rate my video. If you know of any problems with this car that I haven't mentioned, be sure to write about them in the comments.
I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carme.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what brakes and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carme.pro.